أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. I'm very thankful to UMT, DD Sir, Abid Sherwani Sir, Dean of Dr. And I'm also very grateful to my dear colleague, my dear student, and the very respected teacher of your department, Dr. Mohsen, that they have invited me to interact with you today on Islamophobia, which is a very complex term to me because I feel that I have studied it, that's why it has become very complex. Normally, those who do not, in fact, study a lot about Islamophobia, they think it is a very simplistic kind of term, which means that fear of Islam and Muslims, that's it. But once you go deeper into this phenomenon, that what Islamophobia is all about, then you come to know that what Islamophobia is and how difficult and how intricate this concept is, honestly. So I, in fact, feeling myself very privileged, extremely delighted to interact with you young people here from Lahore, from University of Management and Technology. Most of my exposure is, in fact, on the other side of the city, in Islamabad, or somehow the West. But giving this opportunity to me by your respected colleagues, by your respected teachers, I really feel honored to be here and to share my thoughts about Islamophobia. I will try to make my talk very short, very brief, so that it should be given more time for interactive session, because primarily this is an interactive session. I would like to take your questions and try to respond to you and to remove the confusions about Islamophobia that might exist in anyone's mind. And this would, I think, would help me open up more about this phenomenon, open up more or explore more this phenomenon. But as far as just an introductory or rudimentary talk on Islamophobia, I would like to say that when in 2008, this was very first time I was talking about Islamophobia. In fact, I was coming from a civil service background. I was not a teacher. I had a different background. I had a different understanding of things. I was wearing a uniform. I was a police officer. And all of a sudden, I decided that no, I would not like to be a police officer anymore, any longer. So I joined International Islamic University as assistant professor. And from there, when I in fact tried to rehash, try to reconnect myself with the subject of mass communication, there I found that there is something extremely disheartening, extremely perturbing, that how West is portraying, our Western media are portraying and mediatizing Islam and Muslims, and what kind of problems these kind of discourses in the Western media are creating for the Muslims living in the West. This, in fact, was a very important ushering point in 2008 when I started working on that. And once I completed my first 2-3 papers on Islamophobia, I felt that probably I'm done with this subject. I have known almost all possible areas of Islamophobia. And that's it. Now I should look for some other area of mass communication. This was, in fact, my feelings about Islamophobia some 20 years back, or 13 years back. I'm talking 2008, when I completed 3 papers on Islamophobia. And I tried to give a process model of Islamophobia. When I tried to give, this was something unique at that point in time that people didn't know, that how to quantify Islamophobia. Because Islamophobia was most of those times, it was studied qualitatively. What Islamophobia is all about, what is its history, and there was, you see, huge plethora of literature was there in the Western books, Western scholarships. But there was hardly anybody who was daring enough to go for quantifying Islamophobia, measuring Islamophobia. For instance, this person is there in front of me, and I feel that he is Islamophobic. Let me see that how much Islamophobic he is about Muslim Islam. For instance, this is your weight and this is your height. These are kind of quantities that you always are having somehow attached with you. But if some kind of attitudinal level thing is available within an individual, So what is its nature and how can we quantify it? This was something very daring at that point in time, and there was nobody who was in fact doing anything like that. And that was very first time. And once I discussed this matter with my supervisor in University of Surrey, and I showed him my intention that what I would like to do. So he was really amazed with Zafar. I think don't talk about things like that, which is something not easy to be done in a year time. That would take a very long time to in fact complete these kind of projects where you are trying to quantify Islamophobia as a phenomenon, as a construct. And I said, okay, no problem, not essentially that I'm going to complete in 1 year time, because I had 1 year stay there. So it's not essentially that I would be going to complete this. Maybe I can start by having, you see, myself located in Surrey. So this maybe I start down the road in the next 10 years time, probably I would be able to make it. But thanks God, alhamdulillah, I did that and I conceptualized Islamophobia and then tried to operationalize Islamophobia, which was in fact giving multiple, you see, epistemic dimensions of Islamophobia. That Islamophobia is not a monolithic concept. Of course, there have been not many people, those who were saying that Islamophobia is not monolithic in fashion. Monolithic in its understanding, not one unidimensional concept, it's not. There were so many people, those who were talking about that. But the question was, if it is not, and it is a dynamic concept, then what are its other dynamic dimensions? Here, most of the people were in fact not shedding any light on it. This was in fact very problematic. You see, you some of the times claim things that these are there or these are not there. But proving them whether they are there or whether they are not there, that is always a very scholastic kind of thing that we are supposed to do. So Islamophobia was considered as a monolith, is not a monolithic phenomenon. But the question was that is contra, or you can say flip top, is that Islamophobia is a very dynamic and organic concept. So one is dynamic and one is organic. Then we need to identify that where does it lie? Where does it lie? And what shapes it lie? If, for instance, you say this room is there and this room has 4 walls, has this much size of roof, and there are so number of fans. So you see, these are all dimensions. This fan is just 7-8 feet away from me, and this place is 7-8 feet from steps from me. That's it. So these are things with the help of which we can easily identify the overall structure of something. But once we are saying that Islamophobia is an organic structure, is something which is very dynamic in nature, then we need to have these kind of very important details identified and properly measured. So unfortunately, I really had not have enough of it in the literature. Then you see that became, you see, a very important thing to talk about. How to, in fact, at that point in time, most of the people were talking Islamophobia as a mediated construction. Islamophobia are there because the media are trying to say something about Islam and Muslims in negative fashion. That's it. And primarily that was in fact, you see, emanating from that epochal point in time of our history, 9/11. That 9/11 is in fact the most important epochal time of history when the Islamophobic kind of things appeared in the world. And that became, you see, a media construct, something to chew by the media owner, something to chew by the journalist. And some of the people, those who are in fact more liberal and probably taking a tracing it back, they were in fact reaching to only one point in the history, and that was what? That was reaching to 1989, Iranian Revolution. So they were saying that Islamophobia was there. That was there from 1979, because the Muslims at that time appeared to be somehow unique in nature, that they, with some kind of revolutionary efforts, created a state that in fact was revolving, or that was in fact based on some kind of Islamic tenets. That is it. And some kind of, you see, unlike Western things happened during that point in time, they then started thinking about it that a state has born on the globe, on the map of globe, that can terrorize the world because of its religious outlook. And what that religious outlook is, they belong to Islam. And that's it. And there was nothing like that. I mean, if you go beyond that, you will hardly see that Islamophobia does exist anywhere, honestly. You will not see anything like that. That's why the most important, I mean, where is Shameen? I could see her probably. Shameen, I was just discussing this matter a few moments back when I was coming to this room before that. So she was stressing it that Islamophobia was there in 1997. That was a Runnymede report. 1997, they were saying that Islamophobia, a challenge for us all. This was a small report that was published in 1997. And they were saying that Islamophobia is a neology. They were calling it what? As a neology. Neology means some new term that has been introduced into the literature. So they were calling it as a neology. And they were tracing it, that first term, use of this phenomenal term is in 1991, and that's it. In 1991, a newspaper, which was a fortnightly newspaper, and the name of the newspaper was Insight, got published from the United States, and the one who was writing first time or using first time the term Islamophobia was Tariq Mudu, the Egyptian probably. He was first time coining this term, that Islamophobia, I mean the fear of Islam, that may be called as Islamophobia, that is on the rise in the West. Because of, you see, Muslim diaspora in the West, they are increasing in number, their visibility is increasing, there are more mosques, there are more processions the Muslims are leading. So these kind of things are creating problem in the West. So the fear that the people are facing because of these kind of, you see, rising religious activities on the part of Muslims, that is in fact causing Islamophobic kind of things. So this was the first time he was in fact saying this thing according to 1997 report, the most cited report on Islamophobia so far. This was such a myopic thing, honestly, in literature. Such a myopic in the sense that they were unable to track and trace it. This is not a new term. We traced it and we reached, no, 1985 Islamophobia term was there. Islamophobia reconsidered by Fred Holiday. 1985. Then we traced it that this has been in use in 1976 as well. Then we traced it and we found it out that no, this term was in use in 1926 as well in a research journal, Journal of Theology, and the writer was Stanley Cook. Stanley Cook was writing a paper, The History of Religions, and on the first page he was talking about Islamophobia. 1926, almost 100 years from now. I mean, you see, unfortunately we do not do research, we do not think critically, that's why we are unable to explore things. Things are very complex in nature. This is not just like a mosque, and it has nothing like that. This is this side and the other side, and that's it. Social phenomena are always evolving. Social phenomena are always dynamic in nature. And we have not been able to, in fact, trace and track and, in fact, identify the intricacies that are hidden in those concepts. And that is even not end to end. In 1910, a French Navy officer, while doing PhD, he was narrating his experiences while he was interacting with Muslims from Africa, and the kind of fearful they were in fact facing from some kind of resistance in Algeria and these countries. So he, on the basis of that saying, I was feeling most of the time myself as Islamophobic. And he did that. He wrote this thing in his PhD thesis, 1910. And I have some literature which is in the process right now. I'm trying to translate it with the help of French embassy, where I have brought some literature from UK, from University of Oxford, where I believe, I mean, these are extremely polemical literature pieces that I have brought from UK, are in French, and I believe that I will one day find some Islamophobia term there as well. Inshallah ta'ala. इसके लिए थोड़े से resources की ज़रूरत है, मुझे यकीन है कि हमें मिल जाएंगे और I will be able to in fact make it somehow more archaic, more you can say older than anti-Semitism which was introduced in 1856. मुझे यकीन है कि मैं इसको उस जगह से भी पीछे इंशाअल्लाह ताला दूंगा. But let us talk about something about the Islamophobia as a term. Islamophobia as a term is not just, you see, important thing. For us to understand, it is important to know that what Islamophobia as a phenomenon is. वो आज हमें आई एम सॉरी, अगर आप में से कोई अंग्रेजी को समझने वाला ना हो तो मेरे को प्रॉब्लम अगर हो तो मैं दोनों में इक्वली कन्वर्सेट कर सकता हूँ। उर्दू में अगर आने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है तो मैं उर्दू में भी आ सकता हूँ। किसी को मेरी ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं है कि इस्लामोफोबिया की टर्म क्या है। मेरी ये प्रॉब्लम है इस वक्त समझना इस्लामोफोबिया की ट्रेस कहां से निकलती है। सबसे पहले जब प्रॉफिट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने इस्लाम का ऐलान किया और इस्लाम जो है ना वो अरब पेनिनसुला से निकल के दुनिया में कोने कोने तक पहुंचना शुरू हुआ, तो एक शख्स उठा है, the one he was in fact elder of the Christianity and he was shouldered this responsibility to protect the religion of Christianity and avoid people converting to other religions. He was, of course, he was Pope of the time. He was the elder of that society. His name was John of Damascus. John of Damascus ने जब देखा कि इतनी बड़ी तादाद के अंदर क्रिश्चियंस कन्वर्ट हो रहे हैं इस्लाम की तरफ, this became very fearful for him. और उसने क्या किया, उसने ही हमारे लिए ऑनेस्टली मेरे बच्चों में आप सबको ये बात सिर्फ इसलिए इंस्पायरेशन के लिए कह रहा हूँ, आओ ज्वाइन करो इस सब्जेक्ट को, ये साइंटिफिक सब्जेक्ट है, इसको प्लीज़ करो, हम सबको इस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है। इसलिए कि मैं एंड पे जब ये कहूँगा तो मुझे आपको शायद महसूस होगा कि इस बात के अंदर मैं पीछे मेरी क्या बात थी। जब उन्होंने उस वक्त लिखना शुरू किया उसने ये कहा कि अ प्रॉब्लम हैज टेकन बर्थ, अ प्रॉब्लम हैज टेकन बर्थ एंड दैट प्रॉब्लम इज नथिंग but a punishment for the unscrupulous sins of Christians and the Christianity. And we have to counter it. And we have to defeat it. We have to avoid our people becoming, you see, Muslims. And we have to stop Islam spreading and coming and reaching our homes, our houses. So this was very first time, in fact, they started talking about this like that. And in a very systematic fashion, he was in fact saying things like that. And that he did not stop. I mean, if you just look at the literature that is produced at that point in time, you will be surprised to know. Go for discourse analysis of those literatures that is produced. Go for, you see, CDA analysis of those literatures, you would be able to find out that how scientific and methodic he had been in his approaches towards Islam. And he was not, you see, the only one that you did it. He was just, you see, the first drop in the whole process. फिर उसके बाद देखें आपके पास क्या होता है। जंगें शुरू होती हैं, क्रूसेड शुरू होते हैं, क्रूसेड 1, क्रूसेड 2, क्रूसेड 3, और उसके बाद लिटरेचर्स का इतना अंबार सा पैदा होता है हमारे मुसलमानों के खिलाफ। और फिर उसके बाद जब इनको समझ आती है कि नो, दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल दैट वी कैन वाइप आउट मुस्लिम्स फ्रॉम द मैप ऑफ ग्लोब विद द हेल्प ऑफ sword and power, so we have to now go for some other means. And that was the time when in Vain is located in France. This is the name of a city. In Vain, French city, they called all the elders of all religious entities get together. They sat for 3 long years, sir. They sat for 3 long years to decide about it, how to counter Islamophobia. This is a growing menace and that is destructive for our religions. And they call it as an existential threat. You know existential threat क्या होता है? वो threat कि अगर मैं इस threat को कत्ल नहीं करता तो मैं खत्म हो जाऊंगा। जब threat खत्म नहीं होगा तो मैं खत्म हो जाऊंगा। बका की जंग लड़ने वाला जिसे आप कह सकते हैं। They took it as an existential threat to the Christians and the Christianity and the Judaism. This was very first time they sat together. I mean, those who were otherwise, you see, held with each other. Semitism, anti-Semitism, जिसको आप कह सकते हैं, Jews or Christianity, they were in fact fighting with each other because of, you see, a Christ problem. तो वो आपस में मसाइल में थे, लेकिन जब यहाँ इस्लाम की बात हुई तो फिर इकट्ठे हो गए और फिर उसके बाद बड़ी कंपेन चलना शुरू हुई। मैं अभी आपके सामने एक और बात शेयर करना चाहूँगा कि इसके बाद एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट शख्स आता है जिसको पीटर दी वेनरेबल कहा जाता है। अगेन फ्रांस, नोट कीजिएगा इस ट्रेजेक्टरी को। अगेन फ्रांस से एक शख्स जो कि पीटर दी वेनरेबल, जिसको पीटर ऑफ क्लोने भी कहा जाता है। क्लोने इज नेम ऑफ अ सिटी, वहाँ पे सबसे बड़ा चर्च है उनका, सदियों पुराना चर्च। एंड ही वाज एल्डर ऑफ क्रिश्चियनिटी, पोप था उस वक्त के बादशाहों से। उसने कहा कि हमें इस पे जो पिछला पॉइंट था वो क्या था कि वेन कन्वेंशन में most important recommendation was what? This is available on the internet. You can go and bring them down, download करके उसको पढ़ सकते हैं मेन कन्वेंशन की सारी recommendation, where they were calling that azan is in fact a devil's call, and they were considered Muslims as Islam as a bundle of heresies of Judaism and Christianity. कि बिद्दतों का एक बंडल है. Islam is a bundle of heresies, and those who are following the most demeaning creature on this earth, the most demeaning creatures on this earth, and they are the companions of the devils, Satan's friends. ये लफ्ज़ उन्होंने इस्तेमाल किया है. तो इस प्रॉब्लम को रिमूव करने के लिए we have failed to remove this problem with the help of sword and power and money and all that. So we have left only one option, the point where I wanted to in fact bring you to it. We can only fight this menace, this problem, through academic and political endeavors and onslaught against them. That was the ultimate conclusion, that was the ultimate recommendation that they had given. सिर्फ और सिर्फ academic और political onslaught के through, political movements के through हम इस्लाम को खत्म कर सकते हैं और अपने लोगों को devils होने से बचा सकते हैं, या अपने लोगों को devils के companion होने से बचा सकते हैं. और फिर उस शख्स ने सबसे पहले कुरान की ट्रांसलेशन. He went to different parts of Europe, found the people, those who are the intellectuals of that time, located them, bribed them. King Anthony V was on his back, giving him, you see, huge sum of money to him to procure all the, you see, human intellect that can help him translate things against Islam. कहाँ से जाता है वो? ट्रिग्नोमेट्री का जो बादशाह है, या किंग है, या फादर ऑफ ट्रिग्नोमेट्री जिसको कहा जाता है, पीटर ऑफ पोइटियर, उसको ले आया ट्रांसलेशन और ये सारा कुछ कराया. क्या होता है? इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट कि कुरान को ट्रांसलेट करते हैं फर्स्ट टाइम किसी भी यूरोपियन लैंग्वेज के अंदर, और ट्रांसलेशन अपनी मर्जी के मुताबिक, और फिर जो एनोटेशंस उसकी होती है या तफसीर जो देने की कोशिश करता है, वो खुद लिखता है तफसीर. और उसके अंदर, नोट दिस पॉइंट, मैं हमेशा इसको इसके साथ लिंक करता हूं कि आज जो आपको चार्ली एब्डो खाके बनाते हुए नजर आता है, आज जो आपको डेनमार्क का न्यूज़पेपर्स खाके बनाता हुआ नजर आता है, ऐसे नहीं है. क्योंकि उस शख्स ने 13th सेंचुरी के अंदर वो एनोटेशंस में आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के खाके बनाए थे, और बायन ही वही खाके बनाए थे. दिस इज फर्स्ट टाइम आई एम सेइंग ऑन एनी पब्लिक प्लेटफॉर्म. बायन ही वही खाके उसने उस जगह पे बनाए थे जो आज हमारे यहां रिप्रोड्यूस हो रहे हैं. लुक एट दिस पॉइंट, अंडरस्टैंड करें. Whatever we see right now, whatever we observe, that's not in fact today's thing. It has a huge history, a long history. और ऐसा नजर नहीं आता कि फ्रांस में आज ये काम हो रहा है जो हो रहा है मुसलमानों के खिलाफ, और 70% से ज्यादा मुस्लिम्स जो है ना वो आज के जो जेलों में मौजूद है सारे पेटी क्राइम्स पे हैं. सॉरी, 70% टोटल लोग जो उनकी जेलों के अंदर मौजूद है वो मुस्लिम्स हैं, और सारे पेटी क्राइम्स में हैं. This is official data I'm giving. I'm not giving concocting myself. This is the official data which is available on newspapers given by the concerned authorities. यूएस के अंदर आप जाके देखें तो वहां पर आपके पास मीडिया किस तरीके से कंस्ट्रक्ट कर रहा है आपके इस किस्म के स्टीरियोटाइपिकल थिंग्स को, पीछे से इंटरव्यू आ रहा है. इस्लाम इज अ कैंसर. This is not first time the Wall Street Journal, this headline there, that Islam is a cancer. Because this has been said much earlier than this point in time when Wall Street Journal was saying anything like that. 100 years back. ये आज आपको जो कहा जा रहा है कि आप मास्क ना पहने, वेल ना करें, आज की बात नहीं है. वेल बैन, बुर्कीनी, ये सारी चीजें कहां है? ये आज की बात कसम से नहीं है. उठा के देखें कि 13th सेंचुरी के अंदर किस किस्म के ये लॉज बनाए गए थे. लफ्ज तक तब्दील नहीं किए जो आज इंप्लीमेंट हो रहे हैं वहां पे लॉज. वो लॉज जो कि 13th सेंचुरी में इन्होंने अप्लाई किए थे अपने मुमालिक के अंदर, लफ्ज तक चेंज नहीं किए. This might be a surprise for you honestly, but that's what the actual thing is. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam को किस तरह से दिखाया जा रहा है. इस्लाम को किस तरह से पोस्ट किया जा रहा है, कुरान को किस तरह से दिखाया जा रहा है, तीन चीजें हैं बस. Islam as a religion, that is concoction. This is a bundle of heresies, concoction of other religions. दूसरी क्या कहा जा रहा है? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was instructed by two renegades of Judaism and Christianity, and they taught him to write Quran and to become a prophet. ये वो डिस्कोर्स है वेस्ट के अंदर पाया जा रहा है. किताबें उठा के देख लें, निसाब उठा के देख लें, न्यूयॉर्क के नेशनल म्यूजियम में जाके देख लें, वहां पे वो जो फ्रेंजो बनी हुई हैं, तस्वीरें बनी हुई हैं, उनमें उठा के अगर देख लें, ये सब चीजें मौजूद हैं. जब बेस्ले नेकोला बेस्ले आज से कपल ऑफ इयर्स बैक इनोसेंस ऑफ मुस्लिम यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स के अंदर बना रहा था, why there was nobody asking him, you should not do anything like this? It's a crack, this is a complete unartistic piece that you are trying to create and demean a prophet or a personality that has millions of followers, billions of followers. Nobody was there even today asking this thing to him. आपको याद होगा जिस पे YouTube 2 साल 2.5 साल की हमारे बंद रही थी, आज की बात है क्या ये? वो जो बातें कर रहे हैं, आज जाएं 2018 के अंदर, 2018 जस्ट 3 years बैक फ्रॉम नाउ, नेट पे जाएं, अभी यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ प्रिंसटन का थीसिस एक बच्ची ने किया है, एक लड़की ने किया है, जिसको पेट्रिशिया क्रोन एंड माइकल कुक क्या कर रहा है, सुपरवाइज कर रहे हैं. यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ प्रिंसटन आप शायद ना जानते हो कि टॉप 10 रैंकिंग यूनिवर्सिटीज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड में शामिल है. ये उसका पीएचडी का थीसिस, उसके अंदर बरियल एपिसोड ऑफ प्रॉफिट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के अंदर वो सारी पोलेमिक्स मौजूद है जिसको हम वेस्ट के अंदर सदियों से देखते हुए आ रहे हैं. What do you expect that they would talk about you? What do you expect that they would, how you would, they would receive you? This is, you see, a different kind of, you see, warfare. मेरे साथ प्रॉब्लम ये है, हमारे साथ प्रॉब्लम ये है, हम इसको समझ नहीं रहे. Islamophobia, racism है, Islamophobia, dislike of Muslim है, Islam है, Islamophobia, war against our deen, war against Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam है, Islamophobia, othering है, Islamophobia, security threats है, Islamophobia, ओरिएंटलिज्म है. इस्लामोफोबिया के इतने डायमेंशन है, हर मुख्तलिफ जगह पे मुख्तलिफ इसके फेसेस पाए जाते हैं और हर एक की रीजंस डिफरेंट हैं. प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब से मैं ये बात कह रहा था कि आप इसको अंडरस्टैंड करने की कोशिश करें. It's not about only Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not about only Islam, and it's not only about Quran. You need to have properly studied it. जब तक इसको समझेंगे नहीं, इसको अंडरस्टैंड नहीं करेंगे, आप कसम से इसको आप बिल्कुल सही तरीके से आप एड्रेस कर ही नहीं सकते. Last thing, I'm sorry, I feel that I'm going in my emotions. I'm going. You see, breaking the time limit that has been given to me. I'm very sorry, apologizing, sir. I'm very sorry. But this is the last thing that I would like to say. Last takeaway. नहीं सर, मुझे लग रहा है कि मैं शायद ज़्यादा हो रहा हूँ. मैं आपको एक बात बच्चे कह दूँ, इस्लामोफोबिया की नई डेफिनेशन, शमीन, for you and for others as well. शमीन का एक्चुअली अभी थीसिस आया है इस्लामोफोबिया पे, उन्होंने अभी काम किया, थोड़ी देर पहले इनका वायवा था. तो मैं इसलिए सिर्फ एक ही बच्ची को जानता हूँ, इसलिए मैं उसका नाम ले रहा हूँ. इस्लामोफोबिया की जो नई टर्म हमने जो कॉइन की है, और हम इसको साबित भी कर रहे हैं थ्रू रिसर्च. इंशाल्लाह नेक्स्ट कपल ऑफ मंथ्स टाइम वो पेपर हमारे 2-3 पेपर्स इसमें हैं जो पब्लिश हो जाएंगे. न्यू इस्लामोफोबिया की टर्म हमने कायम की है, NEO, न्यू इस्लामोफोबिया. मैं हालांकि शायद जो आप मैंने पिछले दिनों टीवी टॉक में भी एक बात कही थी, तो इस वजह से दिस इज नो मोर अ न्यू टर्म नाउ, बिकॉज अ कपल ऑफ डेज बैक आई हैड डिस्कशन ऑन अ टीवी प्रोग्राम और उसमें मैंने ये बात की थी, पहली मरतबा वहाँ बात की थी, लेकिन इस पे पेपर मेरे 2-3 इंशाल्लाह ताला प्रोसेस में आ जाएंगे. न्यू इस्लामोफोबिया को मैं थोड़ा सा बता देता हूँ. एक नई जो चीज़ अब आई है. आप इस जगह पे बैठे हुए हैं जिसको हम पाकिस्तान कह रहे हैं. Once you are in Pakistan, can you say or can you support India on Kashmir issue? Is there anybody who can raise hand? मुझे नहीं लगता कि कोई एक बंदा भी होगा. अगर कोई होगा भी सही तो कभी हाथ भी खड़ा नहीं करेगा. You cannot think of it. You see, this is totally beyond your imagination that somebody living in Pakistan is saying that India is a great country and whatever India is doing in Kashmir is absolutely justified. Nobody would be doing anything like that. Can you think of it that you live in the United States and you say the Israeli and illegitimate child of the United States? Or whatever they are doing wrong in terms of Palestine? No, you would not be able to do anything like that. Can you say that North Korea is doing everything right and they have right to survive in the world? No, you cannot. If you are living in the United States, you cannot say anything like that, and North Korea is justified. They have justified stance on nuclear proliferation and all these things. आप अगर इंग्लैंड के अंदर खड़े हुए आप फ्रांस को अच्छा नहीं समझते, आप फ्रांस के अंदर खड़े हुए तो आप इंग्लैंड को अच्छा नहीं समझते, आप इजराइल के अंदर खड़े हुए तो you cannot say that Palestine and Palestinians belong to them, not to us. You cannot dare saying anything like that. नहीं कर सकते ना. Same state right now is there in the West. You may like some Muslims, you may like everything that belongs to Islam, but once it's question of expressing that in public, you will mum your words. Never say anything fair. एक climate है fear का जो हर तरफ available है वो media ने set कर दिया है. Muslims are irrational, Muslims are anti-democratic, Muslims are anti-democracy, Muslims are irrational, extremists, fundamentalists. A very liberal-looking, progressive Muslim can turn into a fundamentalist and a potential danger to any time. Don't wait for him. Exterminate them once they are there in big number. CNN की बात कर रहा हूं. Senator of the UN Congress talk कर रहा है, बात कर रहा है क्या कि Muslims are rats. मुझे यकीन है कि rats और mouse के अंदर आप लोगों को फर्क पता होगा. अंग्रेजी की गिमिक है ये. रैट्स मोटे से होते हैं, काले से, जुताओं उनका बायस बनाते हैं. वो कह रहे हैं Muslims are rats. And if my child is bitten by a rat at home, I will exterminate all of them that are available in my home without going for any kind of dental analysis that what particular rat has bitten my child. Muslims are rats. Wherever they are, kill them because they are a potential danger. तो ये डिस्कशन कहाँ हो रही है? डिस्कशन कहां पे हो रही है? Radicalists, irrational, extremists, fundamentalists, whatever they look at, whatever they look like, don't believe in them. From inside, they are these bundle of different kind of demeaning things, and that's it. This is what their whole construction of this Islamophobia is all about. तो मैं समझता हूँ Islamophobia मेरा ख्याल में नेगेटिव पोस्टरिंग है मुस्लिम्स के अंदर, बड़ी इसके डिफरेंट फैसेट्स हैं, ये अभी आपको आप समझ आ गए होगी. लेकिन एक बात जो बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है, मैं जब आपसे कह रहा था ना कि ये मैं आखिर में ये बात आपसे कहूँगा कि आप सारे बच्चे मेरे लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. क्या है? रिस्पांस इंटेलेक्चुअल है. We cannot fight if somebody is saying anything in Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the United States and we start, in fact, you see, bullying each other. We immediately go and protest and, you see, smash our own assets. That's not, in fact, the response that we most of the time generate. This is a kind of intellectual and academic and political nature thing. We understand, we need to understand it. और effectively आप उस लेवल पे दिखाने की जरूरत है. इसमें मैं अक्सर कहता हूँ कि इस्लामोफोबिया उन्होंने क्या किया है वेस्ट में? They simplified it. ये एक methodologically ये important part है. They simplified the very intricate phenomenon of Islamophobia. What is that? Muslims are irrational fundamentalists and a threat to peace of the West. That's it. बड़ा simple सा है ना, इसको understanding करने में problem है मुझे या आपको? The Muslims are threat to the world peace. एक लाइन में समझ आ गए. They have simplified it in the very easiest fashion. They have simplified. Second thing, what do we do? ये चीज़ हमें replicate करनी है. Second thing is what? Second thing is that they replicate it. They simplify and then they replicate. आप लिखते हैं, आप लिखते हैं, आप लिखते हैं. There are hundreds of papers that appear about Muslims and Islam and calling them as fundamentalists, as a threat to the world peace and all this. And hundreds of papers are there. Write Islamophobia on the internet and you will see hundreds of papers. The second important thing is what? The replication. हमारे यहाँ पहले तो रिस्पांस जनरेट नहीं होता, फिर रेप्लिकेशन की तो बात ही कोई नहीं है. ऐसे कि पेपर ही पब्लिश नहीं होते, जर्नल्स ही नहीं है, हम में से कितने लोग लिखने वाले हैं, यूनिवर्सिटी में कितने लोग लिखने वाले हैं, आप इस चीज़ को बेहतर जान सकते हैं. And the third thing is what? They orchestrate it. They simplify, they replicate it, and they orchestrate. और ऑर्केस्ट्रेशन क्या होती है? मीडिया सारी वही बात कर रहा है, लोग सारे वही बात कह रहे हैं, दिस इज ऑर्केस्ट्रेशन। दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग इज यू सी इज डन। अगर आज हमने कोई रिस्पांस जनरेट करना है तो खुदा के लिए हमें इस प्रॉब्लम को सिंप्लीफाई करके दुनिया के सामने पेश करना है रिस्पांस। फिर एक नहीं, हम सारे स्कॉलर्स हैं, टीम कोहॉर्ट हमने डेवलप करना है जो इस किस्म की चीजों को लिखेगा, पढ़ेगा, करेगा तवातर के साथ। मैं तो आपको सेंचुरीज पुरानी हिस्ट्री बता रहा हूं तो आपके साथ आए। एंड थर्ड थिंग इज दैट एवरीबॉडी हैज टू टॉक अबाउट दैट। ऑर्केस्ट्रेशन इज आल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। तो मैं समझता हूं जब तक हम ये काम इस फॉर्म के अंदर नहीं करेंगे उस वक्त तक मैं नहीं समझता कि इस्लामोफोबिया को हम किसी भी फॉर्म के अंदर प्रॉपरली काउंटर कर सकते हैं। विद दैट आई एम वेरी सॉरी आई हैव टेकन मोर देन माय ड्यू टाइम। और मैं डॉक्टर साहब का बहुत मशहूर, आबिद साहब का, इस फैकल्टी का मशहूर हूँ और UMT का बहुत मशहूर हूँ और आप सब लोगों को बेहद मशहूर हूँ कि आप लोगों ने यू हैव बेयर with me for some time. Thank you very much.